Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to Kardec Radio. I am Correa, and we are gathered here on this beautiful platforms every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for us to study the laws that govern not only our lives but the whole universe, because we are indeed, dear friends, citizens of the universe, as in the words of Master Jesus in the book Good News, God holds the entire universe lovingly in his grateful hands. So we know that the whole universe is under his care, and we are grateful to Kardec because Kardec, as a wise educator and codifier, was not only able to understand the laws that govern the universe, but he also made these laws available to us. So we are very fortunate to be here in a platform that carries his name and his honor, studying his work. So welcome to you, beautiful dear soul. Feel embraced by the mentors of Kardec Radio, who have lovingly prepared this educational moment for all of us. And if you wish, please write a comment or your name so we can say hello. At this moment, we can see Veronica. Welcome, Veronica. Say hello to your husband as well and your whole family. May everyone be enveloped in the loving vibrations of the Master. If we cannot see your name, dear friend, please feel embraced in the same current of light which you, as a child of God, is helping sustain as well. We know that in every program that Kardec Radio offers, we are both receiving assistance from the mentors on high, and we are offering ourselves to be of service. So let us hope that as we study our vibrations of love and fraternity can be of good use in the hands of the loving spirits. Right, dear friends? Hello, soul souls! The sun is shining amongst us with your joyful presence. Thank you for joining us, dear friend. It's beautiful to be amongst friends, as Master Jesus has taught us. The title of friend is the most sacred there is. So thank you for joining us, dear friends. And tonight we are going to focus our attention on questions 862 and 863 of the Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec, if you would like to follow along. So now we are going to begin by reading question 862. In question 862, Kardec asks, there are people who never succeed in anything and who seem to be plagued by an evil genius in all their endeavors. Isn't that what could be called fate? Excellent question. We are so grateful to Kardec because he thought of all the questions that we have in mind, and he was able to ask and receive enlightening answers from the mentors that work under the command of the Christ, the governor of our planet. So let us read their answer and then bring a couple of highlights for our own reflection so we can feel the scriptures. The mentors on high say to Kardec and to all of us, is it fate, if you would like to call it that, or rather, it is fate, if you would like to call it that. But it results from the choice of that type of existence, as those individuals have elected a life full of disappointments, so that they can exercise their patience and fortitude. However, do not believe that such fate is always inevitable, because it is often only the result of their having taken a wrong path, not consistent with their intelligence and aptitudes. Someone who tries to swim across the river without knowing how to swim stands a very good chance of drowning. The same applies to most events in life. If humankind only tried to undertake that which is in the line of their own aptitudes, they would almost always succeed. They fail because of their vanity and greed, which lead them away from their pathway and make them pursue the satisfaction of their own passions. They then fail, and it is their own fault. But rather than blaming them themselves, they prefer to blame the stars. One who might have been a good work person making an honorable living prefers to be a mediocre poet and ends up starving. There would be a place for everyone if each could find the right role. So thank you, mentors, for this very enlightening answer. So we can break down this answer together so we can feel the scriptures, bring it closer to us. The mentors are explaining to us, dear friends, that there are two types of challenges that we may face while incarnated. One type of challenge may be the types of challenges that we ourselves have chosen to undertake in the spiritual realm as a result of our wanting to obtain peace of mind before the laws that govern the universe. Another type of suffering is the type of suffering that comes from the fact that we may rebel against the reincarnatory proposal that we ourselves have helped to craft. So let us think of examples to illustrate the teachings that the mentors are bringing to us, because they are not mere words. Dear friends, they are treasures for the soul. They are rays of light that illuminate our hearts so we grow in wisdom and thus can make happier choices not only for now but for immortality. So let us consider two examples. The first example that we have in mind is the example that André Luiz mentions in the book The Messenger. And we are referring to André Luiz, the spirit doctor, who dictated the book The Messenger through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. In this narrative by André Luiz reports to us many very enlightening case studies of spirits who recently discarnated, having failed to accomplish the educational goals written for them in the educational plan that was prepared for them, tailored for them before reincarnation. So we may be wondering, Carol, does that mean that each of us have a tailored educational plan for ourselves before reincarnating? And the answer from the illuminated spirits, if our hands are up, and if we want to know, is absolutely yes. We were prepared. And the book The Messenger describes such such preparation process. And in this book, we see a particular woman, discarnate woman named Mariana. We see that in her reincarnatory plan, she was meant to make use of mediumship in order to redeem herself of past choices that she had made in previous incarnations. God is so good that God grants us talents of many different kinds so that we can help God co-create love for ourselves and for others. And in doing so, we cover our own multitude of past, less illuminated choices with love. And in doing so, we sow peace of mind for ourselves. So, mediumship is one such talent. This woman, Mariana, incarnated having been trained in the spiritual realm to make use of the talent of mediumship for the good, for the Christ, for charitable purposes in the setting of a spiritist center. So she reincarnates, and once she reaches the point in time where she is ready to practice mediumship as an incarnate spirit, she then faces difficulties at home. Her husband in that particular incarnation resisted her call to serve at the Spiritist Center. He created obstacles for her, and she then succumbed. She did not keep going. She did not press on. She made the choice to give up embracing the call to serve at the Spiritist Center. And then, upon arriving back in the spiritual realm, she learned that those difficulties she faced were also a part of her plan, her reincarnatory educational plan. She was supposed to practice faith, to practice perseverance, to practice endurance. This is why the obstacles, dear friends, were placed inside of her home, because perhaps and very likely, when obstacles are very close to us, in the form of people whom we love so dearly, this is when we are tested the most. Mariana, as a spirit, chose that test. She chose to be faced with relatives that did not understand her mission, so that she could exercise the muscles of faith in God. But she, dear friends, succumbed. And now she goes back to the spiritual realm and she behaves exactly as the description in the question 862 of the Spirit's book tells us. She behaves as if she was plagued with evil circumstances, as if life did not favor her. She placed herself in the position of a victim, states Andre Lewis in the book The Messenger. But if we reflect more deeply by reading the feedback she received by the loving spirit mentors in the colony Nosso Lar, we learn that she was not a victim, that she was not plagued by evil, that she herself had chosen those types of tests, and she herself, out of her own responsibility, failed. Why? We may wonder. Because she failed to persevere in that particular test. So, this is an example of a trial, dear friends. When we ourselves decide to place ourselves in a challenging circumstance, to give ourselves as immortal spirits an opportunity to develop a virtue that will serve us not only for this life, but for immortality. And very often, if not always, our reincarnatory plan has an element of individual growth, meaning a virtue that we particularly are planning to acquire, but also an element of collective growth as we learn to serve one another. And we may be wondering, but how about those who do not go to a spiritist center? How about those who don't even know of spiritism? They are as beautiful a child of God as we are and as Master Jesus is. It is not inside of the Spiritist Center that we find our pathway per se, but it is within being a charitable person. This is why in the Gospel, according to Spiritism, it does not say without Spiritism, there is no salvation. It does say without charity, there is no salvation. So every time we serve one another, prioritize the general good, we are clicking or checking that box in all of our reincarnatory plans that determine that we are to dedicate ourselves towards and for the general good. But Carol, how do we know that this particular item is in everyone's reincarnatory educational plan? Because all of us have an individualized educational plan for this reincarnation. So how do we know that this is a box that we are all to tick? We know it, beloved friends, because Christ is our model. And Christ has determined by the force of his living example that we are here to love one another, to put love into action. His number one commandment is that we love God and love one another as we love ourselves. So we cannot go wrong by prioritizing the general good, like Mariana was supposed to do in the book The Messenger. So this is one type of test that we may devise to ourselves. And if we fail, it is not because we were plagued by evil, as stated in this question, dear friends, but rather because we were not yet strong enough to persevere. So if we wonder, Carol, mentors of Kardec Radio, can you tell us, please, how we can assure that we complete our reincarnatory educational plan successfully? How can our story be different from Mariana's story as narrated by Andre Lewis? Our story can be different, dear friends, if and only if we do what Saul Souza is telling us here. Thank you, Saul. You are giving us all the recipe. We can complete our reincarnatory planned successfully if we persevere until the last minute of this reincarnation by feeling the good, visualizing the good, and doing the good with all the resources that we have at hand. So, for instance, thank you, Saul. We learn together, right? That's the beauty of it. Spiritism is here to be a shining light towards all of us. Beautiful. Thank you, dear Saul. Hooray. So, yes, what could Mariana have done differently? When she faced resistance from her family members, she could have said to herself, well, if God who loves me is allowing me to undergo through this difficulty, it is because God is wanting me to practice my faith. God is giving me an opportunity to practice determination. Thus, I am going to practice determination. So, with Spiritism, dear friends, as Soul Souza reminded us, we can always find God in our lives by seeking the good. If a situation is challenging, it is our choice to see the cup half empty or half full. So, if when we face a relative like Mariana that is a challenge for us, we can say to ourselves, if this person's spirit is in our lives, it's either because we must persevere or because we are there to learn to love them. So it's either one or the other. Rather than placing ourselves as victims, we place ourselves as beloved children of God, and we try to see the blessing in everything. Carol, is this a Pollyanna type of vision? Is this even possible? Is this doable in a circumstance like the current circumstance that we are in? Yes, dear friends, it is possible. As the Spirit Mentors say in question 862, it is literally our choice to take responsibility for prioritizing God's will rather than our own. So, for instance, we may want to be in Hawaii right now, in Australia right now, right, Veronica? Or in Brazil right now. That may be our will. But then we stop and ask ourselves, what may be God's will for us? And then we examine the circumstances and we realize God is asking us to stay still because of the pandemic. If we are to prioritize the general good, then we better stay still. And we can travel within our minds every time we go to sleep. We can go to the spiritual realm and go to spiritual spas, so to speak, where we can receive treatment. We can go to school and learn new things. We can see friends from this life and other lifetimes. That is better than traveling. So God, we are not doomed. We are just having an opportunity to develop beautiful new skills that perhaps we would not develop otherwise. So we can always find the beauty in the life circumstance that we are in. Is that easy? No, because we are on planet Earth, a planet of trials, a planet of tests, a planet where we are being tested right now. This is one of our final exams, dear friends. So is it easy to pass? No, we have to have discipline to persevere. But is it possible? Yes, Again, how? By not placing ourselves as a victim of outside circumstances, but rather by feeling the good, visualizing the good, and doing the good. That is how we do it, dear friends. And how can we do the good now in the pandemic? We can think the good, we can visualize the good, we can spread the good through the internet. We have even less limits than we did before because the internet can travel faster than the physical body. So, in some ways, we are freer than we were before. And Nelson Mandela, for example, was so good at seeking the good that even when he was imprisoned, he said that he had never felt as free as he did at that moment. Because in his thought, he could reach humanity, and he did so by writing beautiful books that to this day nourish our souls. So, reflection question for us, therapeutic question for all of us, dear friends. Are we suffering? Yes, because we are in a planet of trial and expiations. We have suffered. Suffering is part of our educational plan. But second therapeutic question, how are we reading the suffering? How are we interpreting the suffering? Are we seeing ourselves as victims? Because if so, we can make a decision today to change the lenses, to change the glasses through which we interpret the gift of our lives. And we can start looking at ourselves as a masterpiece of God. Shall we look for the traces of God's love in our lives, dear friends, beginning with the gift of the physical body? We were reading the book Good News by Humberto de Campos through Chico Xavier this evening in a Spiritist study group. And in chapter 6, our Master Jesus says to the disciples, even if we cannot speak, even if we cannot walk, even if we cannot use our hands, as many are right now due to the pandemic hospitalized, we can still serve God. And the disciples were amazed when Master Jesus proposed such a premise. And Master Jesus went further and explained, even those who cannot physically do anything can still be of service to God, can still spread the good. And Master Jesus gave us the key. He said, in such circumstances, we can, though shut down to the world, we can be examples of patience and perseverance, of courage to others. So even those who are sick physically will recover, whether in the physical realm or in the spiritual realm, they are not doomed. And during times when we are facing restrictions like now, we can still be examples of courage and perseverance. Where does it begin? How can we all get there together? By training our feelings and thoughts. So, how do we wake up in the morning? Do we wake up saying, oh, mamma mia, one more day of this? Or do we wake up saying, wow, God granted us another day in this reincarnation. Look at how much we can do. How are we going to utilize this precious time? Because there are many dear friends who may wish to have one more minute, who may wish to have one more day, who may wish to have one more word, who may wish to have an internet connection, who may wish to know God more profoundly, but they have ran out of time in this reincarnation. How about us, who have so much, who have the treasure of time in our hands? Are we going to utilize this treasure to hold a pity party and feel sorry for ourselves, as Mariana did in the book The Messenger, and as they mentioned in the Spirit's book? Or are we going to celebrate life and feel joy of living as embodied by Master Jesus to this day? We will end these moments of reflection for all of us by reminding ourselves and one another that in the Spirit's book we also learn that the sun and the stars are meeting points for the illuminated minds who love us so dearly, all of us, that they emanate love and thoughts of the good towards us constantly, providing us with a light that literally nourishes all of our lives. So if we feel distressed, or if we feel forsaken, let us look up in the sky. The Christ-like minds are there reaching out for us. Each ray of light is as if they were holding out their arms, waiting, embracing each of us. So let us not give in to discouragement. Let us not give up in the face of trials. Let us not believe that we are doomed. Let us not accept the voices of darkness that try to convince us that we are not good enough. Let us not believe that God is not there. Rather, let us feel the love that comes towards us constantly, and let us be a little ray of sunshine wherever we may be. Shall we, dear friends? So we will continue our study again next week. Grateful that we could spend these blessed moments nourishing our souls together. Thank you, beautiful friends, for the gift of you. Thank you for being a beautiful and beloved child of God. Let us keep embracing the blessings of God in all of our lives and shining them through, embracing one another and believing in the good. A big, beautiful, virtual hug filled with love to everyone, and we will see you again next time. In the meantime, stay tuned right here on Kardec Radio, because here we are absolutely always nourishing our souls. Thank you so much, dear friends. Bye for now.